talk about Jacob Gill, who is a great addition to this wide receiver room, who's got so far has been the most consistent and our best wide receiver option. Why not? But then we threw out another wide receiver, Howard, out there, who we haven't seen yet, and we barely have seen KALEB Brown. So I know Kirk always preaches, do the little things. We got to do the little things right, and understanding that. So, but also on the same side, he's probably one of our, top 3 athletes specifically on offense. Why are we not having him out there, and contributing? Because we saw what he could do, specifically in the later half of the season when he saw the field more. He was able to, take this, corpse of an offense and have, give it some sort of pulse.
Well, and keep in mind, let me just say this, keep in mind, Jacob Gill wasn't here. Caden Weegan was a year younger. Dayton Howard was a true freshman. Jarrett Bowie was a true freshman. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm not telling you you're wrong that KALEB Brown may be one of their best athletes at receiver, but they like Dayton Howard and they like Terrell Washington. He's another guy that's getting snaps, and he had a catch yesterday. So I don't know. I push back more on that, Alex, than I do on the quarterback conversation, because to me, KALEB Brown didn't impress me all that much last year. I know he made plays in the second half of the season, but he also had a lot of drops. And there was a lot of hype around him. He was an Ohio State transfer. I don't know. I like numbers at receiver, Don. I don't know if that's... By the way, KALEB Brown and Dayton Howard are totally different types of receivers. So I think that probably has... Dayton Howard's like 6'5". So I'm guessing some of that is situational, Don. I don't know if you tracked how many, what situations this guy was in versus this guy.
Well, I do know this. Talking about number 3 and number 21, those guys impressed me with what they're able to do after the catch. And I say this, maybe KALEB in particular has suspect hands. Well, I'm okay with giving him the ball on a fly sweep. Or giving him an easy catch out of the backfield on a swing route, whatever. Just get him the ball in space and give him a chance to prove that he's more explosive than most of the guys we have on our team. I suspect that he'd be able to prove that. Now, obviously, he hasn't earned the same level of trust maybe as some other receivers have. And that's on him. He's got to find a way to demonstrate, even in practice, that I deserve more playing time.
I guess what I'm saying is, okay, we want to talk about speed, then Caden Weegan's the guy for speed. We want to talk about hands, then Jacob Gill is the guy that has hands. If you want to talk about size, then we can talk about Dayton Howard and Reese Vanderzee. So
I would be willing to bet you that KALEB Brown is not too far behind Weegan in terms of speed. He's an explosive athlete. You saw that on that one catch. He turned up the hill. He's pretty sudden.
Yeah, but I think
you're talking about a guy that's seen wide receivers for 40 years. He's pretty sudden.
Okay.
I'd like to give him a chance.
You also
get him side by side in a 40, see who's faster.
I don't know that Weegan would beat him, but it would be a close race, I think.
But I'm just saying, I'm not saying he's not fast. I'm just simply saying what puts him ahead above Caden or these other guys.
I'm on Caden to catch more balls too. I mentioned 2 guys in particular. We're talking about both of them.
But you bring back and Corey, to your point, is we bring back a wide receiver from last year's squad that has shown that, yes, later half of the season he was showed to be somewhat of a spark for that offense that was just putrid. And now Jacob Gill, I think is a great add to that. Reese Vanderzee, a true freshman, outside, you even said it, outside the Illinois State game, he's had 1 catch. He's a true freshman. Howard kid, I can't remember his first name. I know you said it. He's a true freshman too, right?
No, he's a redshirt freshman.
Redshirt freshman. And I don't remember seeing him at all last year. And then Jacob Bowie, who is a true freshman. So
redshirt freshman.
It's what?
Redshirt freshman. He's a redshirt freshman as well.
Freshman. But it's mind-boggling to me that we have a guy who's been in the system for now 2 years, and he's still not seeing the field where the talent is there. We have seen the talent last year where Yeah, he may be more of a gadget type of receiver. He may not be your X. He could be a Y type of wide receiver, or he could be your slot wide receiver who you get him in the flat and then just let his elusiveness take over. But we still haven't seen that.
I guess this show is predicated on me speaking my mind, so I'm going to do it right now. Am I missing something? When did Caleb Brown prove himself as some huge spark last year? I was often sucked from game 1 to game 14, Alex.
What other wide receiver actually did anything last year?
But that's
Seth Anderson had stone hands. Speaking of Seth Anderson, I said this yesterday. Corey, you weren't here. Seth Anderson is Keegan Johnson. He has 2022. Keegan Johnson had a soft tissue injury the entire year, and when the transfer portal opened, he was gone. Seth Anderson is going to do the same.
Okay, well, Caleb Brown. I just want to make this abundantly clear. Caleb Brown had 22 catches for 215 yards last year. So
name the other wide receiver that was closest to him, not tight end, wide receiver.
Wait, Alex, why do we care what he did versus other receivers last year? Last year. They didn't have Jacob Gill. They didn't have Reese Vanderzee. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is a different room. He's got to compete against better guys because they got a guy in Tim Lester.
Do we think Reese Vanderzee and the other guys are as good, if not better than him? I challenge it. I think Jacob Gill's better. I will give you that. I think he has proven that he is better. Reese Vanderzee, he's a taller guy. He had 2 spectacular catches for touchdowns in the Illinois State game, and he's had one since then. And he had one in this Troy game, hit him square in the numbers, and he dropped it. Okay, so, I mean, if you want to talk about Caleb Brown and his hands, there's that.
Actually, that particular ball was thrown behind him.
We could.
It was a drop, but it was thrown behind him.
So it's, I want to see him more. I want him because of what he was able to help with this offense last year with Deacon Hill as our quarterback with no true wide receiver threat. He was our only option. Both tight ends went down, too. He was the only one that we could use to, open up this offense. And now he's not getting a shot. Now, if there's other off the field or practice things that's happening that doesn't let us in on, that's one thing.
He did get an OWI and was suspended game 1, and that sets you behind because other guys got to prove, like Reese Vanderzee got to play. Caleb Brown didn't, and that's on Caleb Brown for screwing up in the offseason.
And that's one reason I talked about level of trust. He has to earn that, and part of that does tie into the OWI. But Corey, let me just take you back 1 week. There was one guy last weekend that took the top off that defense. His name was Caleb Brown. And if we'd have made a good throw, he would have been the hero of the game very conceivably because he was open over the top. Correct or not?
You're correct. I'm not arguing that he's not explosive. I'm simply saying, like Reese, you were talking about Reese Vanderzee's one good performance, Alex. Reese in week 1 against Illinois State doubled Caleb Brown's touchdown count for all of last season. Reese did that in 1 game. Caleb had all of 1 touchdown last season. And I distinctly remember.
I jumped on here. You were talking about we played Illinois State and FCS and then Troy, not a good. So now you're kind of doubling back.
I'm not doubling back. They played crap opponents last year too, and Caleb Brown didn't do anything.
Caleb Brown didn't see the field last year until I think someone's week 6 or week 5. So he barely saw the field even early on. So, okay. But. I
get ripped because I was there was a time here just a couple weeks ago where I was kind of like, I'm not a hater on the Calebs. I think some people think I hate Caleb Johnson and I hate Caleb Brown. Don, you got me to admit something. Let me get you to admit something. Caleb Brown had a problem with drops last year. Wrong, right or wrong?
True. Not reliable enough.
Now everybody had a problem with drops under Brian Ferentz's and Kelton Copeland's tenure. I hate to say that. They did. I mean, there were very few. Like, Brandon Smith had pretty good hands.
Well, part of the problem is we needed to throw a more catchable ball at times.
Well, that may be true, Don.
It wasn't all on the receivers.
That may be true. However, I've seen, Jacob Gill made a couple of catches yesterday. One where he stretched out. I mean, Cade's not throwing the best balls.
That's correct.
Was it Luke Lachey caught one at his feet yesterday? And to me, I'm just seeing guys that are better pass catchers now already. I'm already seeing that under Tim Lester's watch, and maybe give some credit to John Budmeyer in that as well. That's fine. I have no problem doing that. But like, I'm just thinking back to the receivers of the Bryan era and the Kelton era. I remember Tracy having problems with drops. I remember Smith Marset being fast. And I remember people saying that, boy, the guy could just catch, but he's really fast, but if he could just catch. Even Nico Ragaini had stretches of time where he'd struggle with drops. You mentioned Keegan Johnson. I mean, I don't remember Arlen Bruce seemed like his career was a flash in the pan, but.
Well, I mean, he didn't make it to the end zone. He had money on the Iowa game, remember? Allegedly.